Don't take it for granted, because as our sea levels continue to rise, it could stop working. We're talking about our sewer system here.
Yeah, tonight, senior investigator Stephen Stock uncovers a disturbing threat from rising water that could actually affect nearly every one of us where we live, no matter if it's in the hills or if it's along the shoreline.
Most of the Bay Area's sewage treatment plants are built on low land along the bay, and when the waters rise, they're at very much risk of flooding. Using the latest scientific models, we were able to discover 4 plants are at risk of failing within the next decade alone. That means some of you won't be able to flush your toilets, while others will be flooded by backed up sewage.
Manhole covers were blowing up out of the street.
Living on a hill 2 miles from the ocean, 5 miles from the bay in the West Portal neighborhood of San Francisco,
at its highest, it was about up to here.
Peter and Sarah Glover never imagined that they would see sewage gushing out of their shower.
Probably in the span of about 5 minutes, it was almost all over, like the water was completely high.
The sewage is coming up out of this bathroom.
The Glovers spent close to $90,000 to clean up the mess left behind after a heavy rainstorm in December 2019. Even though their insurance covered the disaster, they say the shock and the stench left a toll they'll never forget.
The odor was horrific.
Yeah.
It was horrific. It was really foul. There's no other way to put it.
Dozens of the Glovers' neighbors' homes on Wawona Street also flooded because San Francisco's sewer system carries rain runoff. But as sea levels rise, scenes like this could play out across the Bay Area.
Just in the span of the last 5 years, it happened twice.
Experts say rising sea levels threaten to flood sewage treatment plants all around the bay. And as the Glovers' experience shows, when there's too much water at the bottom of the sewer system, wastewater starts flowing the other way.
It's at risk, and it's at greater risk as time goes on with sea level rise.
Len Matterman is CEO of One Shoreline in San Mateo, an agency that is combating rising waters across the Bay Area.
Even if you live in the hills, even if you're in Hillsborough or Woodside or whatnot, if you flush your toilet, you depend on a functioning water treatment plant.
We collected data from scientists at UC Berkeley as well as from separate research by the Bay Area Clean Water Agencies. According to the data, of 39 sewage treatment plants around the Bay Area, 30 are at risk as sea levels rise.
There is a lot of vulnerability of these systems.
Dr. Michelle Hummel, now a civil engineering professor at the University of Texas at Arlington, was the lead author of the study out of Berkeley.
Even if your home itself is not flooding, you could lose access to wastewater services. So there's a lot of potential impacts that we'll see as an entire region.
Do we all collectively need to understand what a serious threat this is?
Yes, the goal of this study was to just highlight the magnitude of this potential threat.
We discovered that of the 30 plants at risk from rising seas, 15 of them, serving 1.7 million people, are vulnerable to 40 inches of water rise or less. 9 of those plants could be flooded with less than 30 inches sea level rise. And most concerning of all to experts, 4 of those plants, serving 391,000 people, could be underwater with less than 10 inches of sea level rise, something that state prediction models say could happen within 10 years.
While we don't have to panic, we do have to start working.
San Francisco Bay Regional Water Board Chair Jim McGrath says officials started planning for this problem about 6 years ago. But he says the solutions can be challenging and expensive, including possibly relocating some of the most vulnerable sewage treatment plants.
So you're going to have to think about, okay, are we going to have to reconstruct some of these facilities as force mains, which means you pump them rather than go by gravity, which is more expensive to operate.
The flood barrier kind of works like this.
The Glovers say officials urgently need to address this problem region-wide before what happened to them happens to hundreds of thousands of their Bay Area neighbors.
Until the city and the state and the country take climate change seriously, we're going to continually be in this position. It's a shame.
Water board officials say area sewage treatment plants now have 9 months to come up with a plan to show how they will deal with rising sea levels. This plant already has a plan in place. But if a plant does not have a plan soon, officials say one will be provided for them. I'm Stephen Stock, NBC Bay Area News.